Nice that you are watching this video. In this video we continue about the album Evermore by Taylor Swift. The visual aesthetic of Evermore takes upon a wintry theme. A Yuletide version of the cottagecore, woodland aesthetic of Folklore. Time stated that Folklore is a muted, autumnal palette of sounds and feelings, whereas Evermore is its winter companion with lingering sadness and regret. While Folklore adapts a grayscale monochrome, Evermore employs colors. The Times of India opined that Evermore embraces 1960s-era Laurel Canyon. The cover artwork of Evermore shows Swift in a barren field, facing away from the camera, looking over the bare trees in the distance. She is seen standing at the edge of a forested area, while on the cover of Folklore, she was seen inside a forest. Her hair is styled in a French braid and she wears a single-breasted, brown and orange checked flannel coat, taken from a collection by English designer Stella McCartney. Stylist called the hairstyle messy yet chic. Adam Reed, UK editorial ambassador for French beauty company L'Oréal, admired Swift's braid and described it as simple, supernatural and timeless. According to Consequence, the cover artwork is gorgeous in its simplicity and has Swift facing a field, insinuating she's inviting the listener to see the field through her eyes. Like the Folklore album cover, the Evermore photo was taken at the home of Swift's friend in Lewisboro, New York. Following Evermore's release, replicas of the flannel coat Swift wore on the cover artwork quickly sold out on Farfetch. The album cover was the third most searched album cover of 2021 on the internet, after Kanye West's Donda, 2021, and Olivia Rodrigo's Sour, 2021. Evermore was released on December 11, 2020. 2 days before Swift's 31st birthday, to digital music and streaming platforms only. It is a sister album to Folklore, which was launched less than 5 months prior. Both of them are surprise albums announced 16 hours prior to their midnight releases. Evermore marked the second time Swift abandoned her long, traditional album rollout. The CDs were released on December 18, 2020. The bonus tracks of Evermore Deluxe Edition, Right Where You Left Me, and It's Time to Go, which were formerly physical exclusive, were released to streaming services on January 7, 2021. Cassette tapes and vinyl LPs of Evermore were released on February 21 and May 28, 2021, respectively. Billboard reported that the delayed release of the album's physical formats is owed to its surprise release and the time-consuming manufacturing process of physical albums, specifically the vinyl copies. Limited number of autographed CDs were sold at select independent record stores. On December 14, 2020, Swift appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live to promote the album. On a December 2020 episode of Howard Stern's Sirius XM radio show, English singer-songwriter Paul McCartney revealed that Swift originally decided to postpone the release of Evermore by 1 week to respect the original December 11 release date of his 18th studio album, McCartney 3. Upon learning this, McCartney decided to release his album on December 18 instead so that Swift could move forward with her Evermore rollout as initially planned. 3 6-song compilations consisting of tracks from both Evermore and Folklore, titled the Dropped Your Hand While Dancing chapter, the Forever is the Sweetest Con chapter, and the Ladies Lunching chapter, all stylized in all lowercase, were released to streaming platforms on January 21, January 27, and February 4, 2021, respectively. Willow was released as the lead single of Evermore, alongside the album itself, on December 11, 2020. The song was accompanied with a music video directed by Swift. The single debuted at #1 in Australia, Canada, and the United States. In the US, it scored her 7th #1 song, second #1 in 2020, after Cardigan, and the third #1 debut of her career. Willow topped Hot Alternative Songs, Adult Top 40 and Digital Song Sales charts as well. According to Billboard, 3 of the album's tracks were sent to different radio formats, a plan that was adapted for Folklore as well. Willow impacted U.S. adult contemporary and pop radio stations on December 14 and 15, 2020, respectively. Nobody, No Crime was sent to U.S. country radio on January 11, 2021. Coney Island was promoted to U.S. adult album alternative radio on January 18, 2021. Evermore was met with widespread critical acclaim upon release, with emphasis on its kinship with Folklore and Swift's expansion of her musical boundaries. At Metacritic, which assigns a normalized rating out of 100 to reviews from professional publications, the album received an average score of 85, based on 29 reviews, indicating universal acclaim. Describing Swift as an unrivaled songwriter, Brody Lancaster of the Sydney Morning Herald found Evermore traveling deeper into the singer's fictitious narratives and praised the depth and variety of its characters. NME critic Hannah Mile-Rea opined that Swift pushes her indie reinvention further in Evermore, terming it a freewheeling younger sibling. While Folklore is the introspective, romantic older sister, Mile-Rea thought Evermore is looser and more experimental, expanding on its predecessor's sonic palette. In congruence, American Songwriter designated Folklore as the archetypal older sister, a careful, yet hopeless romantic, whereas Evermore is the bold, scrappy younger one, with the latter being a Yuletide evolution of the former's sound. Maura Johnston, writing for Entertainment Weekly, asserted that Swift levels up on Evermore by taking musical risks, and dubbed the sister albums a career high for the singer. Spin critic Bobby Olivier thought the career-redefining album finds Swift at her prime, joining the pantheon of songwriters who consistently deliver despite unimaginable expectations. He regarded Evermore a stronger work than Folklore. Annie Zaleski of the AV Club also chose Evermore over Folklore, and noted that the former continues the latter's universe building, with stronger writing and greater sonic cohesion. The Guardian's Alexis Petridis said Evermore furthers Swift's departure to alternative rock from mainstream pop, comparing it to her country to pop shift in Red, 2012. He added that it proves her ability to switch genres easily, calling it heartfelt and ruminative. Neil McCormick of the Daily Telegraph lauded the album's emotional songcraft and unhurried tempo, noting its songs are not for stadiums. Patrick Ryan of USA Today gave plaudits to its mystical instrumentation and escapist lyrics, stressing that Evermore is not a vestige of Folklore, but rather a sister reinforcing Swift's strengths. In her Rolling Stone review, Claire Schaffer saw Swift embracing new genres and ambitious storytelling, and welcomed her new artistic direction. The independent writer Helen Brown deemed its songs haunting and contemplative, and complimented its tasteful compositions. Jason Lipschutz of Billboard stated that the album is more progressive and audacious than Folklore, although posing as a sequel at first. He explained that Evermore explores the complications of adult love more extensively than its predecessor, and flaunts Swift's boldest and richest songwriting. Variety critic Chris Willman praised the album's subliminal production and Swift's agile vocals, and underlined its impressionist storytelling style that clicks only after multiple listens. Stereogum's Tom Bryan named Evermore a full-on winter album, populated by subtle growers, shrouded in a sedative atmosphere. John Pareles of the New York Times commended its diligent sound and poised lyrics, and noted more character studies in it than Folklore. In less favorable reviews, Kitty Empire of The Observer praised the album's emotion and themes, but felt Swift is still a little muted on Evermore, as she was on Folklore by pastel music that smears Vaseline on her otherwise keen lens. Chris Richards of The Washington Post found the album overlong, felt some lyrics were subpar for Swift's prowess, and rejected the notion of categorizing her 2020 works as indie. Michael Wood of the Los Angeles Times felt that the album is Folklore's leftovers and simply repeats its trick, but named Tolerate It, Gold Rush, Champagne Problems, No Body, No Crime, and Dorothea as highlights. By the time Swift unveiled the album, many publications had already issued their year-end rankings of best albums of 2020. Evermore ranked on lists published after December 11th, including number 1 placements from NJ.com, USA Today, and Variety, which it shared with Folklore. Evermore finished at number 20 on Metacritic's aggregated list of 2020 year-end rankings, available only via digital music and streaming platforms. Republic Records reported over 1 million copies of Evermore sold in its first week worldwide, marking Swift's 8th consecutive studio album to achieve it. All of the album's 15 tracks entered the top 75 of the Billboard Global 200 chart. Aided by Evermore and Folklore, Swift was 2020's top-streamed artist on Amazon Music across all genres. The International Federation of the Phonographic Industry named her the best-selling solo artist and female artist of 2020, and second overall. Evermore debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart, topping it for 4 weeks. It opened with 329,000 units, consisting of 220.49 million on-demand streams and 154,000 digital albums, and earned the biggest sales week for an album since her own Folklore. It is Swift's second number 1 album in 2020 and 8th consecutive number 1 debut, making her the third woman with 8 number 1s, behind Barbra Streisand and Madonna, alongside Folklore at number 3. Swift became the first woman in the chart's history to simultaneously have 2 albums in the top 3. The gap between the number 1 debuts of Folklore and Evermore was 140 days, breaking the Guinness World Record for the shortest gap between 2 chart-topping albums by a woman on the Billboard 200. The album debuted atop the Alternative Albums chart as well, dethroning Folklore from number 1. Evermore topped the chart for 15 weeks. All of the album's 15 tracks entered the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously. Evermore became Swift's third album to chart all of its standard tracks together, after Lover, 2019, and Folklore. Swift became the woman with the most Hot 100 hits with 128, regaining the record from Nicki Minaj with the number 1 debut of Willow. She also became first act to simultaneously place an album and a single atop both Billboard 200 and Hot 100 charts at 2 occasions, following Folklore and Cardigan. All tracks appeared on Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart as well, except No Body, No Crime, which debuted at number 2 on the Hot Country Songs. Due to 8 tracks from Folklore remaining on the chart alongside the 14 from Evermore, Swift occupied 22 of the chart's 50 positions, the second most simultaneous entries in the chart's history, behind Linkin Park. On the Hot Alternative Songs, Swift claimed 16 spots, besting Machine Gun Kelly's record, despite its availability for the last 2 weeks of 2020 only. Evermore became one of the top 10 best-selling albums of 2020. It placed 8th on Rolling Stone's bestsellers list, and 10th on MRC Data's best-selling albums of 2020 with 283,000 sales. Its sister record, Folklore, was the top seller of 2020. In April 2021, Evermore surpassed 1 million units in the US. In June, it scored its fourth week atop the Billboard 200 with 202,000 units. Following its vinyl release, 192,000 of that sum were pure sales, surpassing her own Fearless, Taylor's version, for the largest sales week of 2021. It marked the 53rd chart-topping week of Swift's career, extending her record as the female act with the most weeks at number 1 in Billboard 200 history and the third most overall. Behind the Beatles and Elvis Presley, the album sold 102,000 vinyl copies the same week, breaking the former record by Jack White's Lazaretto, 40,000, for the biggest sales week for vinyl LPs since MRC Data's inauguration in 1991. Evermore became the best-selling CD and vinyl album of 2021. In July 2021, it became the best-selling album of the year, with 374,000 copies sold. Evermore was the seventh most consumed album with 818,000 total units. Evermore topped the 2021 Billboard year-end top album sales and top alternative albums charts. It further placed fourth on the year-end Billboard 200 chart. Swift ranked as the number 1 Billboard 200 artist, Billboard 200 female artist, top album sales artist, top alternative artist, and top alternative albums artist. Selling 529,000 pure copies, Evermore was fourth on the best-selling albums list of 2021, alongside three other Swift albums: Red, Taylor's version, Fearless, Taylor's version, and Folklore, in the top 10. In Canada, Evermore appeared at the top spot of Billboard Canadian Albums chart as Swift's 8th Canadian number 1 album, and her second in 2020. The album spent 3 weeks atop the chart. All of the tracks debuted inside the top 50 region of the Canadian Hot 100 simultaneously, except Closure. Willow became her 7th Canadian number 1 hit, with Champagne Problems at number 6, No Body, No Crime at 11, 'Tis the Damn Season at 13, Gold Rush at 14, and Tolerate It at 18. In 2021, Evermore was the country's 7th best-selling album. In Australia, Swift achieved a chart double by occupying the top spots of both albums and singles charts simultaneously. Evermore entered at number 1 on the ARIA Albums chart, garnering her 7th chart topper, collecting her second number 1 album of the year 19 weeks after Folklore. Swift broke the record for the shortest gap between two successive number 1s, surpassing the 25 weeks between Ariana Grande's Sweetener, 2018, and Thank You, Next, 2019. Willow debuted atop the ARIA Singles chart, accompanied by 11 fellow tracks. It marked her 7th Australian number 1 song. Evermore spent 4 consecutive weeks at number 1 in Australia, tying with Folklore as her second longest-running chart topper, behind 1989, 11 weeks. In the United Kingdom, Evermore topped the UK Albums chart for 2 weeks. It made Swift the fastest female artist to accumulate 6 number 1 albums in the country, 2012 to 2020, surpassing Madonna, 1997 to 2008. And the first female artist to score 6 chart toppers in the 21st century. The album is her second number 1 album in 2020 after Folklore, establishing her as the first act to score multiple chart-topping albums in a calendar year, since David Bowie in 2016. Evermore also topped the UK's Vinyl Albums chart and the Americana Albums chart. On the official singles chart, Willow landed at number 3 and gave Swift her 11th top 5 hit, while tracks Champagne Problems and Nobody, No Crime arrived at numbers 15 and 19, respectively, increasing her UK top 20 hits total to 21. Evermore was the best-selling Americana album of 2021 in the UK. In New Zealand, the album launched atop the Top 40 Albums chart, while its tracks, Willow, Champagne Problems, Nobody, No Crime, and Gold Rush, charted at numbers 3, 24, 29 and 34 on the Top 40 Singles chart, respectively. In Malaysia, Willow and Champagne Problems debuted at numbers 2 and 15, respectively, whereas on the Singaporean Top 30 Singles chart, the tracks entered at the 1st and 16th spots. Gold Rush and Nobody, No Crime also charted in Singapore. In many European territories, Evermore attained its peak multiple weeks after its release. It debuted at number 1 in Croatia in January 2021, and reached the top spot in Flanders in its 6th week on the Ultratop 200 albums. After debuting at number 2, it marked Swift's 5th consecutive number 1 album in the Belgian region. The album peaked at number 2 on the Irish Albums chart in its 3rd week. It opened at number 3 in its debut week, marking Swift's 6th consecutive top 3 album in Ireland. It was the most downloaded and streamed album of the week. Simultaneously, Willow also placed at number 3 on Irish Singles Chart, alongside tracks Champagne Problems and Nobody, No Crime, at 6th and 11th spots, respectively, rising Swift's sum of top 50 hits to 38. On the Scottish Albums Chart, Evermore opened at number 5, but peaked at number 3 after 25 weeks. On Germany's Officiel Top 100, the album opened at number 24, rose to number 6 the next week, and ascended to number 5 in June 2021, whereas it topped the Greek Albums Chart in August 2021. Journalists praised Swift's fast-succeeding release of Evermore after Folklore. Variety compared it to similar moves by the Beatles and U2, while Rolling Stone termed it a hot streak, reminiscent of Prince in 1987 and David Bowie in 1977. Vulture called it a major shock, as Swift is known for her traditional album rollouts. Our Culture Mag and NJ.com welcomed her artistic dedication, as Swift was also concurrently re-recording her back catalogue in 2020. The Sydney Morning Herald named her the Queen of Pandemic Productivity. The New York Times felt the album was as a crucial moment in Swift's career and creativity. The Guardian and Vox opined that Evermore and Folklore, through emphasis on Swift's work ethic, helped critics recognize her musicianship and view her as a dedicated singer. Moving away from her pop star image in the mid-2010s, Billboard cited the two albums as the most notable examples for how the pandemic veered music in 2020 and forced artists to amend their creative process. CNN and The Times named Swift among the most prominent celebrities of the pandemic. Swift was the world's top-paid solo musician of 2020. And the highest paid in the US, thanks to her revenues from Evermore and Folklore, which according to Junkie were alternative experiments, taken mainstream by Swift's sheer star power. The Independent ranked Evermore as 14th on their list of 20 most underrated albums, with Roisin O'Connor dubbing it, arguably, the album where does her biggest creative flex, blurring the lines between reality and fiction. At the 2021 American Music Awards, Evermore won the American Music Award for Favorite Pop, Rock Album, as Swift's record-breaking 7th nod and 4th win in the category. Swift was also nominated for Artist of the Year and Favorite Pop, rock female artist, and won the latter for a record-breaking sixth time. At the 64th Annual Grammy Awards, Evermore contended for Album of the Year as Swift's fifth nomination in the category, following Fearless, 2008, Red, 2012, 1989, 2014, and Folklore. Croatian singer-songwriter Mia Dimšić named Evermore as an inspiration for writing Guilty Pleasure, her entry song representing Croatia at the Eurovision Song Contest 2022. American singer-songwriter Christina Perri, regarding her 2022 single, Ever Gone, told Consequence that Evermore and Folklore influenced her to write heartfelt, melancholic songs as opposed to external expectations for upbeat music. After Evermore, artists such as Gracie Abrams, Ed Sheeran, King Princess and Girl in Red collaborated with Desna at his Long Pond studio. Desna stated, after Taylor, "It was a bit crazy how many people reached out. And getting to meet and write songs with people you wouldn't have had access to. I'm so grateful for it." In 2023, Noah Kahan credited Folklore and Evermore with providing a mainstream prominence for his brand of alt folk. Swift also embarked on the Eras Tour, 2023-2024, which consisted of 10 acts, the third of which was dedicated to Evermore on February 2, 2021. A theme park in Pleasant Grove, Utah, called Evermore Park, sued Swift and her team for allegedly infringing its Evermore trademark, seeking to prevent Swift's further use of the word, and demanded statutory damages of $2 million per counterfeit mark per type of goods or services sold. The park had sent a cease and desist letter to Swift on December 29, 2020, to which the singer's team declined to abide, replying, "If anything, your client's website traffic has actually increased as a result of the release of Ms. Swift's recent album, which in turn could only serve to enhance your client's mark." The park claimed that the title of Swift's album confuses consumers, negatively affecting the park's searchability. According to their court documents, the park's visitors inquired the staff about whether the album was a collaboration between Swift and the park, and that on the day Evermore was announced, the traffic on the park's official website surged by 330% in comparison to the previous day, affecting the park's Google footprint. It also mentioned the park's merchandise and original music on streaming platforms under the Evermore trademark, claiming Swift's album has made them harder to find. Swift's team denied the accusations, referring to the suit as baseless. Their letter filed in court stated, "It is inconceivable that there is any likelihood of confusion between your client's theme park and related products and Ms. Swift's music and related products," and claimed that the park's merchandise, small dragon eggs, guild patches, and a small dragon mount, are not similar to the products on Swift's web store. Speaking to Billboard, Swift's spokesperson called the suit frivolous and disputed its true intent, highlighting a Utah Business Report, according to which the park's founder and CEO Ken Bretschneider has had at least 5 lawsuits filed against him and the Evermore Group by major construction companies, claiming they are owed between $28,000 and $400,000 in construction, mechanic and landscaping fees. Smaller subcontractors who did work on the park have also filed more than 20 construction liens on the Evermore property. On February 24, 2021, TAS Rights Management, Swift's copyrights company, countersued the park for allegedly infringing Swift's songs, Love Story, You Belong With Me, and Bad Blood, by regularly using them in their performances without a license. TAS claimed that the park, blatantly ignored the numerous notices from BMI and opted instead to continue to benefit from the free and unauthorized public performance of despite actual knowledge of the liability and substantial penalties imposed by the Copyright Act to protect artists, and pointed out that Brettschneider reached out to BMI, seeking a retroactive license that would cover all performances from 2018 through 2021, after anticipating a lawsuit from Swift's side. In March 2021, Swift's spokesperson stated that both parties have resolved to drop and dismiss their respective suits without monetary settlement. This is the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.